How we doing? How we doing? This is Destination Denver, Colorado, and I heard you. You're living in Texas, thinking about making your way to Colorado, and you want to know, is it a good move or a bad move? Well, we're discussing it starting right now. All right, this is Destination Denver, Colorado. I'm your host, Jimmy Everts, and listen, if you're interested in all the ins and outs, pros and cons to moving to or living around Denver, Colorado, then this is a channel for you. So that subscribe button and notification icon popping up on your screen, click on that as I'm dropping new videos for you each and every week. And listen, as much as I try to get a little creative here on camera, I'm also a licensed mortgage broker covering the entire state of Colorado and team with some of Denver's most talented realtors. So the number and email you see on your screen, know that I am always the person answering your phone calls, answer your texts, answer your emails, there when and if you need me. Now that we're done with that fun-filled stuff, let's get to what we're here for, and that is moving from Texas to Denver, Colorado. All right, so I'm going to start this video off by pissing people in Texas off, just kidding, by comparing you to California. I told you I was just kidding. So, Texas, California, Arizona, Florida, 4 states that have consistently traded people with Denver and with Colorado for as long as I can remember. And statistically, those are typically the 4 states bringing the most people to Colorado, and for that matter, it is a big destination for Colorado as well. So when we're talking about Texas and we're talking about Colorado, we first have to understand what it is about those 2 states that have us trading people like cattle left and right. And the number one answer that you're going to get from the majority of people is climate. Now, being that you're from Texas and I'm from Colorado, I'm not going to pretend to educate you on Texas. I think we can both agree on the fact that your state is pretty large. And because it's pretty large, obviously your climate from the southern tip to the northern tip, east to west, is going to be different. But as a whole and on average, Texas tends to be quite a bit hotter than Colorado and quite a bit more humid. So when we talk to people moving from Texas to Denver, number one thing they want is 4 seasons. They want to enjoy spring and fall. They want to be able to go outside in the summertime and not deal with heat that is pushing triple digits and with 70-75% humidity where you're just pouring sweat. Now granted, you can still wear your cowboy hat here in Colorado because the sun gets really bright here and can burn you. So bring the cowboy hats with you, but you're not going to deal with as much heat. However, one of the reasons that a lot of people from Colorado tend to move south is because we get snow here and we get cold. So Colorado is obviously going to see a colder climate in the wintertime. Certainly our temperatures get lower. We get into the single digits. We get plenty of snow. The sunshine in Colorado is something that we will talk about ad nauseum. You'll hear it all the time. 300 days of sunshine. Shh, don't tell anybody, but it's closer to like 240, 250. However, those winter months are what are going to hold some people back, but overall, moving from Texas, you're going to get 4 seasons, you're going to enjoy the climate, you're going to enjoy your time outside. When I hear, at least for the most part, in Texas, that's one of the negatives, the drawbacks of certain parts of Texas, is that you don't want to go outside. Same thing you're going to see, and again, I know Texas is massive, but your proximity to the things you want to enjoy. So if you're living in Denver and you like the city, you can live in all sorts of suburbs and all sorts of towns within 15 minutes to 30 minutes to maybe 45 minutes of downtown Denver. Here's the beauty of it. I would imagine that one of the reasons that you are going to consider moving to Denver and consider moving to Colorado are these Rocky Mountain things. Just kidding. The mountains, obviously to the west of Denver. And just about anywhere you live close to Denver, even if you're on the east side of town, Aurora, Green Valley Ranch, Commerce City, Parker, you are going to be able to get to the mountains in 45 minutes, maybe an hour in traffic. If you're on the west side of town, if you're in Lakewood like I am, Golden, Wheat Ridge, you can be into the mountains in as little as 15 to 20 minutes. So if you're talking about the proximity of being able to get to things you want to enjoy doing, getting around Colorado, getting around Denver is pretty easy. You are very close in proximity to a lot of these activities, realistically, no matter where you live. Now, again, that is only from hearing a lot of folks in Texas talk about how far you have to drive to get from one place to the other, depending on your circumstances. And Colorado is a big outdoor activities place. We talk about that climate, we talk about that proximity. Well, we want to enjoy it. So when it comes to getting up into the mountains in the winter for skiing, snowboarding, snowshoeing, when we talk about getting up there in the summertime, camping, I do have some people that camp in the wintertime. That's their thing. Please don't ask me about that stuff. But camping, mountain biking, hiking, fishing, hunting, kayaking, all of these outdoor activities, super close, and it's just a huge aspect of how we live. When I talk to people who leave Colorado for other states and I ask them some of the things they miss most, those are the things that come up. And when I talk to people who are moving here, again from states like Texas, and I ask them what brought you here, well, some of the first things out of their mouth are all the outdoor activities they enjoy doing. Now again, when we're talking about moving here from Texas, we can't pretend that all of Texas, again, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but talking as though all of Texas is the same. If you're coming here from Houston or Dallas or Austin or Midlands, all of your reasons, all of your causes for moving here may be different. So as a whole, we will talk about some of the things that Colorado rates very highly on. One, medical care and medical professions. So some of the hospitals in the Denver region as a whole, highly rated for medical care, and as well as the medical profession as a whole. The medical profession, that being one of our biggest in Colorado, leads me to another point, and that is our economy as a whole. The Colorado economy has been, for the better part of 23 years, on the growing side. And this is something that we have in common with Texas. There was a moment in time where Denver's economy was extremely reliant on oil and gas. And it still is to at least some extent. Oil and gas is still a big player in the state of Colorado, but it's no longer what we have to lean our hats on, if you will, anymore. Now we have finance, tech, medical, as I talked about, education. You're going to see a lot of different sectors picking up weight, gaining steam. And so the Denver economy is very diverse. There are a lot of different pieces, a lot of different aspects. And so that provides people moving from other states with a variety of different economic and job markets that they can explore for high-paying jobs. Now, one of the debates we had was, coming up here as far as food. Now, listen, I moved out here having lived in New York for a while. I've lived all over the world for that matter, but having moved here, Colorado's food is getting better. Am I going to pretend to tell you that it is good as maybe the Tex-Mex that you are used to where you're coming from? Certainly the barbecue? No, I'm not. I do think our Tex-Mex is pretty top solid. Top solid. I don't know what top solid means, but we're going to use that word to describe it. I think it's pretty solid on top. And I don't know if you're coming from an area where green chili is a big deal, but here it is, and I think we're pretty damn good at it. Now, what is going to annoy people moving from Texas when they come to Denver? Well, first, we did mention that the winters are a bit harsher. Second is going to be traffic. Depending on where you're coming from, Houston folks, this is baby stuff compared to you, but traffic in Denver can be a little frustrating. It gets congested very easily here, and your 15-minute drive can become a 30-minute drive, and your 30-minute drive can become a 45-minute drive pretty easily. If you are someone who enjoys water and going to a lake, Denver has some really nice ponds. That's about the best I can give you. All you have to do is look at a map of Colorado, and you're going to see a lot of land and not a lot of water. Sloan's Lake, one of the only decent size by decent size that's a pond to you, but one of the decent size bodies of water around Denver, right outside the city, and nobody swims in it. So if that gives you any indication of how Denver is on water, it's not our strong suit. We've got a few reservoirs, we've got a few places where you can take a decent sized boat, but if you spend a lot of your time on the water, expect that to at least somewhat change moving here to Colorado. And I think the big one, and I'm going to break this into sections as we get farther into this video, but the big one is going to be cost of living. And again, that is going to be dependent on where you're coming from. But on average, the cost of living in Colorado, the cost of housing in Colorado is higher than what you are seeing in Texas. And I said I was going to get into that later, but I realized if we're going to talk about it, let's just dive in. So based on a couple different websites, we're going off of NerdWallet and Best Places, two of my favorite sources. So let's talk about Dallas as an example. NerdWallet stated that if you make $100,000 in Dallas, we're talking kind of all-encompassing here. If you make $100,000 in Dallas, you would need to make roughly $108,000 to live a similar life, live in a similar place, have the similar habits that you do in Dallas. You need to make about $108,000 if you lived in Denver. If you're coming from Austin, Texas, that number was slightly higher. If you made $100,000 in Austin, you would need to make roughly $110,000 if you were moving to Denver. Then you had a few of the more aggressive ones. Midland, Texas, making $100,000, you'd need to make $122,000 living here in Denver. Houston was the same, $100,000 compared to $122,000 here in Denver. And San Antonio was $100,000 versus $120,000 here in Denver. Again, trying to find factors. We could talk about, the national average, these cost indicators where, the average score is 100, and if you're above that, it's more expensive if you're below that. But at the end of the day, I want to try to give you a dollar cost average. Interesting, and I'm not going to pretend like I know a ton about Plano, Texas, but Plano seemed to be one of the exceptions in Texas where home prices were higher, and if you made $94,000 in Plano, you would have to make $100,000 here in Denver. So if you're moving here from Plano, I don't know, maybe you're gonna have some more breathing room. And if we're gonna talk about economics, we have to hit on two key factors. That is the fact that Texas does not have an income tax, which you are very well aware of being from there. Colorado does. Our income, we do have a state income tax. That's certainly going to impact that paycheck a little bit. On the opposite end, if you are a property owner, people love to talk about the fact that property taxes in Texas average more than they do here in Colorado. That is going to affect my property owners out there. Obviously, if you are moving from Texas to rent in Denver, that property tax is not going to affect you. I could talk to you about effective tax rate and all of those items, but I think those are the two key factors. Income tax, you're going to deal with that here in Colorado. Property taxes, if you're a property owner or planning on being a property owner, you should have lower property taxes by more than 50% less here in Denver, that being the average from Texas compared to Denver. And I cannot have a discussion with people moving here from Texas without covering two of the key factors that you and I have to be eye to eye on. First off, our football sucks here, okay? I wish I could apologize, and I don't even mean to insult a bunch of high school kids. I'm mainly teasing, but look at me. I'm an athlete in Colorado. That's a lie. I was never an athlete. Point being, football is not where you are used to. Friday nights are going to be different. We do have Deion Sanders here, though, so college football could get interesting pretty quick. But what you are probably used to in Texas, if you are a huge football fan, is going to be different. If you are a Cowboys fan, congratulations. Cowboys fans and Broncos fans, we're both, a little loco, so we have that going for us. Of course, we have won a Super Bowl in recent years. I'm going to get so many unsubscribers for that. And one thing when I was talking to a lot of people who are moving to Denver, and admittedly some clients that I had leaving Denver, that they wanted to make sure that I mentioned in this, is that crime rates in regard to property crimes and car crimes, car thefts, break-ins, damage, things of that nature, have been on the rise here in Denver. Now, I will always stress to people, before you move anywhere, even if you're moving from one town to the other, you always want to do your due diligence as far as checking out crime reports in areas. You're going to want to do your due diligence as far as that, as far as schools, as far as medical coverage. And again, not that these are all interrelated. I'm just saying these are things that I would tell you, make sure you are researching ahead of time. When it comes to Denver, this is as much opinion as it is fact. Crime rate follows density. The more populated areas, you tend to see more of this. But I will admit that is something that, especially when it comes to car crimes, you hear more about, see more about, more people impacted. So something you are going to want to pay attention to. And finally, we gotta talk about the elephant in the room, and that is politics. And I'm not here to get political. I'm just here to tell you that one of the big factors for people leaving Colorado, coming from Texas, all these things. Obviously, Texas has a reputation for being a red state, a conservative state. Colorado had that for a long time, slid into what we would call purple, and I think more recently Denver has become more of a blue city, wherever your standing is on that. There are regions of Colorado that are going to be a bit different. You get down into like Colorado Springs. Colorado Springs tends to be red and conservative. For what that is worth, I think that there are going to be political stances that if you are fond of how Texas operates, Colorado might go against some of those principles and vice versa. I'm not here to take sides. I'm not here to piss people off over politics on a YouTube video about two states. I'm simply here to tell you that a lot of the people I talk to moving from Denver to get to Texas are doing so politically, and a lot of the people I talk to moving from Texas to Colorado are doing so politically. Hopefully it is for funner things like recreation, outdoors, climate, watching football being played at a worse level. I don't know, but we can't avoid talking about that if you're moving from one of those states to the other. Well, we could talk about these things all day, and we can even compare maybe some of the other sports we got going on in Denver compared to Texas. I'm all about it, and that is a perfect opportunity to hit me up. The phone number, the email popping up on your screen. Know that I'm always the person. Answer your phone calls, answer your texts, answer your emails. There when and if you need me. This is Destination Denver, Colorado. I'm your host, Jimmy Everetts. This has been Moving from Texas to Denver, Colorado. Until I see you next time,